educational policies. Education is ought to be the most important policy in both developing and developed countries. The resources which are invested into education at all levels and as early as possible, much earlier than is now the case in most developed countries. Most developed countries waste enormous resources because they don't educate children at, say, age 3. You can teach a child a foreign language at age 3 easily, as most of you in Switzerland probably know, because these children learn foreign languages literally by playing with their peers, and they pick up the skill of another language easily, and it's much more difficult to acquire such skills when you're a teenager. Then it is tough work. So investment in education is really crucial, and I think that's what both Onno and I and say. Here, developed and developing or underdeveloped societies really do not differ at all. It is crucial to invest a larger and larger amount of the wealth of the country in education. I think both developing and developed societies at the moment are failing us, because the constraints they are experiencing leads them to cut funding of universities, funding of primary and secondary education, and that, I think, in the end will turn out to be a very poor political decision.
Other questions? Yeah, I would like to ask a question. Because investing in education is, in your opinion, also investing in infrastructures. Because I was thinking, I was trying to figure out was the first consequence of the education. For example, having good universities is maybe easier than having the money to have the proper infrastructures to do research. Because for example, what happened in Trieste with the International Center for Theoretical Physics, most of the people coming from developing countries, they have to go there to use the infrastructures and also to get a daily contact with other scientists.
Well, I'm not quite sure how to briefly answer your question. I think I will preface my answer by saying that, in my view, it is important to recognize that the so-called information revolution is primarily, or initially, was driven by social changes. So the move toward, or the evolution of knowledge societies, is not so much technology-based or based on infrastructure, but is based on social changes. You have to think of the dramatic increase in the number of children, of students who attend higher education in Western Europe and in North America in the last few decades. These changes have been dramatic. And so the increase in the knowledgeability of many has been the prime mover of many of these changes. And if you carefully examine investments in information and communication technologies, you often find, at least 2 or 3 decades ago when the boom began, that firms began to hire. You can see
you find it like this. Against the far wall. But it's not really so far.
We're nice forward to the one nice.
So now we're glad to be here. I'm delighted to be part of the official U.S. delegation to the World Summit on Information and Society, and to have the opportunity to participate in this important conference on the role of science in the information society. I'm particularly pleased to be part of this session on contributions to education, since I believe deeply that museums and libraries are core educational agencies. The Institute of Museum and Library Services, the federal agency which I head, sees one of our primary leadership activities as promoting the educational work of libraries and museums. It is an independent federal agency that is the primary source of federal grants for museums and libraries in the United States of America. IMOS helps to shape policy and practice among 122,000 libraries and 15,000 museums, specifically in the area of capacity building, lifelong learning, the development and dissemination of new digital technologies, cultural preservation, and civic engagement. Our grants and program support core museum and library services, encourage excellence, and leverage substantial local, state, and private resources. Our funding for the next fiscal year is approximately $262 million, and we support museums of all kinds, including zoos, arboretum, planetaria, and the like. We recognize that as agencies dedicated to education, museums and libraries can play a central role in the building of an information society. We believe further that we must be more than an information society. We must be a learning society. And that is why the Institute of Museum and Library Services is dedicated to creating and sustaining a nation of learners. We are pursuing this goal in recognition of new realities and changing needs, including but not limited to technological developments that are affecting all aspects of our lives, including education. As a recent U.S. report, Learning for the 21st Century, states, quote, "Our community vibrancy, personal quality of life, economic vitality, and business competitiveness depend on a well-prepared citizenry and workforce," close quote. Education, civic engagement, and economic prosperity are linked as never before, and there has never been a greater need for learning throughout the lifetime. Consequently, the triad where people learn, the school, the workplace, and the community, is becoming increasingly equalized. Libraries and museums, especially in the United States, have historically seen themselves as educational institutions. Through exhibitions, lectures, field trips, tours, reading programs, and other services, they have served adults and children in and out of school for centuries. That is even more true today. Indeed, a 2002 survey conducted by our agency, True Needs, True Partners, Museums Serving Schools, found that cumulatively, museums in the United States spent more than $1 billion on kindergarten through 12 educational programs in 2000-2001, and provided millions of instructional hours. With the increased use of digital information technology, the landscape, the scope, depth, and reach of library and museum educational programs continues to evolve. The activities, terminology, practice, and values of libraries and museums collecting, documenting, preserving, exhibiting, and educating have been remarkable, and I believe point to an inexorable convergence. The resources of these institutions in every medium and across every discipline can now be tapped by learners of all ages in new and unforeseen ways. The role of these institutions in providing more than information, more than just digital stuff, is also expanding. New technologies in the hands of experienced museum and library professionals can make it possible for the magnificent scientific, historical, and cultural resources in our libraries and museums to be presented within a matrix of interpretive and didactic materials that enriches meaning and understanding. In fact, distance learning initiatives allow learners to access more than our collections. They bring learners face-to-face, electronically, with people in those institutions, with curators, scientists, historians, and artists. IMLS supported Field Trip Earth, an online resource developed by the North Carolina Zoological Park in conjunction with 2 North Carolina school districts and the World Wildlife Fund. This site focuses on ongoing field-based wildlife conservation research projects around the world, enabling students, teachers, and the public to follow and interact with the daily work of wildlife researchers and other conservation experts through direct questions to the researchers, recorded satellite telephone calls, field diary entries, videos, photos, and related articles and documents. The site includes lesson plans and other tools for teachers It currently supports 1,500 classrooms daily and has been visited by people from about 100 countries. This convergence of resources and assets through the potential of digital technology is also spawning new organizational strategies. A key strategy is collaboration, not only among museums and libraries, but with the formal educational structure, public broadcasting stations, the private sector, and civil society. Institutions cannot afford to be islands. To achieve their educational missions, they need to work together. At IMLS, we promote collaboration through our funding programs, including a formal museum-library collaboration grant category. Many funded projects, with our blessing, go further and engage from the earliest stages representatives from elementary and secondary schools, universities, and community or civic organizations. Two recent awards illustrate this point. We recently made a grant of almost $500,000 to the University of Maine for a project that will create a digital archive of exemplary media, history, and science materials, audio, video, image, and text, from the resources of Maine's museums, libraries, historical societies, and public broadcasters. The project will use broadband technology to develop interactive learning modules, training materials, and other resources for teachers and students in order to facilitate classroom use of digital materials. A similar project aimed at helping to transform the learning environment treats an important historical theme in the United States, the civil rights movement from 1950 to the present. The project is a collaboration of the WGBH Educational Foundation, Educational Television in Boston, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, a museum in Alabama, and St. Louis's Washington University Media and Film Archive. The project will build on WGBH's teacher domain online platform to develop broadband solutions that repurpose rich media archives and other primary source documentary material in the holdings of each institution in order to serve educational needs. There will also be supporting teachers' guides and companion websites. Another necessity is the understanding of the needs of learners. Through neurological research, we know more than ever about how people learn, the importance of early childhood learning, and the fact that learning remains a central part of human experience throughout life, from cradle to grave. Our new ICT-based learning initiatives, tapping the power of technology, can accommodate different learning needs and learning styles. It goes without saying that distance learning requires much more than putting text online. It requires sensitivity to interface design, to navigation, to an appropriate and effective mix of human presence and ongoing interaction and feedback. Increasingly, distance learning programs recognize and address individual learning needs through the presentation of information, program inquiry, and involving the target audience, from elementary school teachers through senior citizens, in the design, development, and testing of the programs. IMLS is one of several public-private partners with the National Science Foundation in the International Children's Digital Library, an international effort to create a digital collection of children's literature, 10,000 books in 100 languages from around the globe. In this case, project developers have partnered with children to create the design, navigation, subject headings, and presentation of the digital library and resources. Thus, a user can serve with outcomes firmly in mind and the greatest likelihood of meeting their goals. IMLS has made a commitment to an outcomes-based model of grants management, including providing training and developing planning and assessment tools. We need to go beyond specific program assessment, however, to provide opportunities for convening across the borders of medium
Okay, well, let me just give a 60-second introduction. Our project is a project to provide connectivity in some countries, mostly in Africa. We've been working there for about 10 years in Kenya, in Ghana. Most recently, we've taken the project to South Africa, and we're also in India, in the southern state of Kerala. Basically, we're looking at institutions of higher education and research institutes, and we're trying to provide some connectivity and study how the internet changes the process of education and research. And if you look at the paragraph 23A, that's actually in your CERN booklet, because it's in the plan of action for the World Summit. That's a pretty good description of our project, paragraph 23A. However, what we're trying to do really is to establish, to answer the sociological question of the extent to which the internet is globalizing science, how it's changing science. And I've had some difficulty over the past few years really explaining to people why it's so difficult to get connected in some places in Africa. And so I did what any sensible person would do, which is I made a movie. Just finished it a few days ago. And it's a movie in 3 parts. It's called Before the Horse. It comes from an English expression, don't put the cart before the horse. It has more than one meaning in this context, but I'm sure you'll see that. It's a film in 3 parts. The first part is in India. It's in Kerala, and it's kind of the visionary, change-oriented, positive view of the internet. And the gentleman will be talking as you see a group of people sort of going down the river. The second part is in Kenya, and that is divided into 2 segments. The first is relatively positive, as you see a professor there at the University of Nairobi who's involved in this connectivity process. And the second part is a little more, it gets a little dimmer when he discovers some of the materials disappearing and some of the problems that occur. And the third part is in Ghana. It's a professor who is trying to explain to an outsider what some of the difficulties are. And there's, if you don't like the film, at least there's some good music in it. So. Start quick on the horse. Press the signature button. Press the play button. It is started. Yes, don't worry.
Guru is something who is a teacher or who reveals light to a person and who removes the darkness and throws light to a person. And he showed me how this internet is working, and he showed me how he could communicate. He showed me the email, and that was the beginning. Getting addicted to it, it's like playing for the cards also. Like that, you don't want to leave it in the middle. And I remember a lot of time I had to spend. But it was something which was very exciting, because through email you can, once you are successful, then you can immediately get response.
Strong to this email, because both are having the same character of responding immediately. They won't make it for the next day.
The money is one part. Available on email. In the beginning, I used to send emails to those persons, some friends, and then I slowly cut all these things. I stopped sending
message was that in the morning he was discussing the same issue, the problem of connectivity with these section heads. And after listening to what the project can do, he said we are all sent. Much later, he also observed that we should have come yesterday just to show the energy of their need to be connected.
If we go to them, we can't be elevating their hopes and then dashing them because it will be very difficult to do these surgeries if that's the case. And so, and you can see how anxious he was.
I think we wanted to be assured that at the moment his organization can be connected and that we were there to do it. I think that's the most important message he wanted to get. Should explain if the materials are not enough and we think we want enough materials. He should explain why or what happens in the house. We should not be.
I don't know if you get a chance to see the photographs, but they went by rather quickly. At least you can know the music. And I'm told that you're not supposed to talk about your movies if you're a director, but I'm not a director, so I just like to mention that the blues is the music that attached to this film. Do I need a mic? I don't know. But the blues is the music attached to the film because, see, this is where we're from, is the American South, the state of Louisiana. And that's where the blues comes from as a music, of course. The joke here is that, we study the developing world because we are in the developing world, and Louisiana is kind of the underdeveloped part of the United States. But the idea here is that a lot of people say that blues is a state of mind. That's completely wrong. Blues is not a state of mind. What I wanted to show in the film here is these are not depressed people. These are not miserable people. They're not even unhappy people. The blues is a set of social conditions. It's poverty, it's inequality, it's resource dependence, and that's what creates these conditions that we see here in the film. It's not misery or oppression, at least in terms of the educated classes that we're talking about here. These are very, very good people. They're our collaborators. Ricardo Duque, my collaborator here, the gentleman in the bow tie over there, he's an actor who's becoming a professor, and the joke there is I'm a professor who became an actor. So he did teach Arnold Schwarzenegger to tie his bow tie, which is a true fact, so if you need any help with that. Lastly, I want to mention just if you need a copy of the film, I have it on DVD, and I'd be happy to send you one. If you just give me your card, I can get your address and send you a DVD. The other thing is that we're organizing an event in Tunis in 2005. It won't be as magnificent as this, I'm afraid, because CERN has done a very fabulous job here, so it may not be as well fortified with the installations, but it's going to be a science and engineering event focusing on the people of life that will be in Tunis in 2005.
So now we finish all the panel speakers. And the floor is open for discussing. And before the discussing, we get the two requirements for two Indian gentlemen. And they ask for very short presentation, 3 minutes, like this one. Can now, before the open discussing, and please, Mr. Prabhahara from New Delhi. Would you have to the microphone?
You got a microphone. You have a microphone. Yeah.
Okay. For 3 minutes, please.
From a land of snake charmers to a land of cyber criminals. From land of potato chips to land of silicon chips. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. That is the changing face of India. If you think India is changing in that fashion, I have an answer yes and also no. Yes, because there is a lot of happenings because of the software export and a lot of the software chains coming out of India. No, because there is huge part of the country is still disconnected. So, as far as education is concerned, ICT can be a better tool to tap the potential of the country, which is a hidden treasure. I have three areas which, like you see, that is the basic illiteracy. We have nearly 25% of the people are still illiterates. So that illiteracy can be removed and make the country as a 10% literate country. For that, we can emulate hole-in-the-wall project of National Institute of Information Technology, where there was some presentation yesterday that NIT is a computer giant of a country which had put a computer in the wall of the company premises. The slum children who are illiterates, very small children, and never went to school, they just use the mouse and keypads and they learn emailing, chatting, everything without anybody's help. So this can be repeated, this can be emulated, this can be imitated throughout the country. So that is my first proposal to remove literacy in the country. Secondly, there are major areas of our country which is still disconnected. They don't have basic telephone facilities, even the phones are there, it's not working because huge mountains, mighty rivers, dense forests. So there is a complex geographical problems are there. If in that case, then if you use the internet, for instance, I'll tell you an example. I was in Arunachal Pradesh, that's the northeastern frontier close to China, where I couldn't have the telephone contact with my friends in Delhi and parents down south. But I happened to enter into the National Yard Center, which had a satellite connection, which was using the internet. I was able to read everything, the newspaper, emails, and communicate with people. So, internet can be a best tool to educate people where it takes 10 to 15 days to reach information from Delhi or from any other capital to this kind of a geographically tough regions. So that can be a good solution to the education problems in the geographically problematic areas. Thirdly, there's a higher education, there's a solid fund cuts by the state because of the increasing globalization and marketization of the economy. So in that case, state is washing away hands and just leaving it to the private sector. Mind you, 30% of the people are still below poverty line, so they don't have much, they don't have money to eat and do the basic needs. Then how can they have money to do the higher education? In that situation, what we can do is that use the internet facilities and provide a public access system that can be useful for the higher education. So people will not come to Delhi or to Bombay or Calcutta to have the access to higher education. Like what is happening around the world, the virtual classrooms can be emulated around the country. So these are the 3 points which I feel that India should take forward to make it a really happening place, not just saying that we have 27% of the Microsoft company are Indians. You can see 15 Indians in this conference, and you can see the World Summit where you have at least 20% of the Indians. So that's what my point is. Thank you.
Next, the gentleman asked to deliver some short remark is from India, Mr. Rajesh, from Indian Institute of Science. Please.
Distinguished dignitaries and ladies and gentlemen, keeping in mind the most promising avenues for the future activity as mentioned by the Education Forum moderator, my contribution at online forum on education focused more on concept of meaningful internet. Internet-based student-focused single-point contact website for global students, in particular students in developing countries. Maybe it will be addressed as global technological universities. Following are the future outlook and contents of internet-based global technological university. By utilizing the immense transformative power of internet to make largest network of global students, universities and scholars on internet for achieving goal of forming a intelligent society without geographical limitation. To initiate worldwide classroom concept of connecting students and teachers across the globe. To make education and knowledge dissemination unconditional and non-commercial to global students for all their academic activities. To focus on students at villages in European countries to study through internet-based education for their formal and informal education. To encourage students to publish in online journals and reward them for quality contribution and also focus on patents. To initiate discussion forum on online textbooks and apply authors and publishers to make textbooks online and free access, keeping in mind the students' unaffordability of high cost of textbooks at developing countries. To provide information about collaborative study with developing and advanced countries by displaying information about sophisticated scientific and technological instrumentation facility and also share the facility which are unaffordable by developing countries to give a new dimension to scientific growth. To make available world conference and seminar information. This will make global students to access the information and also motivate students to participate. In the absence of this information, rich talents cannot come to light. To promote education and technology platforms where students and professionals get in touch with each other in real time for knowledge enrichment. To provide information about scholarship from universities, corporate world, and individuals to every student. To provide information about science and technology, academic projects. To provide information support for student entrepreneurship initiatives. To provide globally available internship and vacant position for students. Information about science and technology fairs around the world. Free center, where information about availability of contributed used textbooks, project reports, educational magazines, software and computers for distribution to poor students at developing countries. Poor Students Corner. This is the place where contributions and donations may be made by anyone in the interest of education and knowledge.
My name is Ibrahim. I represent the International Association of the Third Age Universities. I would like to submit a recommendation to be included in the report. Now, we are living in a society which is aging. We're having more, we're older people now than before. It's an achievement to have older people in the society. That means we have progress. So it's a human achievement, and the older people are recognizing the value of continued learning. The question now, how can we have easier access to older people through internet in order to continue having relations with new generations? And I submit the following recommendation. Improve access of older persons to internet to satisfy their desire for continued learning and better communications between generations. In this connection, I'd like to refer to a congress by IUTA which will take place in Shanghai in October next year with the theme of innovations in continued learning. Thank you very much.
The floor is open. Yeah, we seem many people want to join in discussing. Now they visit Brazil.
My name is Bonnie Gracie.
Yeah.
I work for President Clinton, and I've been to 27 countries to help people learn technology. I am not rich, but I am rich in ideas. I would like you to look at the website that we use at the George Lucas Educational Foundation. George Lucas made a lot of money from movies, but he did not like school when he was a child. So what he did was to take his knowledge and to create technology as media. I suggest that as we teach, because we don't have all the same types of technology, that we use technology as media. If you see the video gallery up there, the little mark, there are 19 movies that you can download and put on CDs like this to distribute to children, to teachers, to community. We believe in teaching the children, the teachers, and the community. If you look up there where it says instructional models, can you open that, please? Okay, the video is fine. I'm concerned because there are not so many teachers here. You are so wonderful in sharing with us what your ideas are and what you're doing in your country. both in the same place. You can't drive a very fast car while you're plodding along in a truck. So one of the things people have to see is, how do you do these things? How do you learn? And all of those are movies and ideas that share with you what we do. So what I'm telling you is that we should recommend that there be an institute or some way in which we have teacher mentoring. These fellows that I work with, these friends of mine, we've met online. This is the first time we see each other, but our ideas for good. One more website, this is different. It's www.eot.org. Her Highness has talked about the indigenous people. I'm indigenous and I'm black. For any purpose in the United States, I would not be on a computer because in many of the places, like the Navajo, they're on the telephones. So we learn to show people what the weed is so that we can teach them how to do these things. This is NCSA. This is emerging technologies. They have workshops and projects in this book. There are maybe 300 of them. Interactive physics. I learned it. Biology workers. I never had it in school. I took astrophysics so I can go and share with teachers because I know it and because it's good and because I can share the magic. Technology is magic if you know it. But if it is only the experts who talk about it, then you don't understand what can happen. I didn't think I liked technology. I had a student who couldn't write, and that's how I learned. We must share projects, and these are all open source. These are all free. And I would like that the community here would exhibit at SC Global, where emerging technologies are. So there will be little pictures on the wall up front, and we can talk to each other from our countries. Each one of our continents has open grid access. So thank you very much. Teachers need to be trained. There should be teacher mentors. The fellow concept is fantastic. These are wonderful people with great ideas. And last of all, we should connect not just through the UN, but through the emerging technologies. So it is a long-time project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very good.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. My name is Andrew Kaniki. I'm from the National Research Foundation in South Africa. Professor Rahman, he had some recommendations towards the end, and perhaps to help us clarify, some issues or how we can go about that. One of his recommendations was, the publication of cheaper online books and journals, and that in fact he himself is currently involved in 2 or 3 journals. What I wanted to find out from him is what costs are you removing from the current costing of electronic or anything that is published in order to make it cheaper? Or what are your suggestions as to make the online publications much cheaper from the current system that we have? In other words, if we have to force or to even get your particular country or any other country for that matter, organizations or associations to publish cheaper, what current costs do we have to remove to make the publications cheaper?
Well, I'm involved in a number of journals. Some are printed, available both in a printed and online form. And these journals have subscription rates of about $1,500 to $2,000 per year. The new online journals I'm getting involved in, the subscription rates will be about 25% only of the normal, so-called normal journals. The costs that are being reduced are firstly, the entire work is done electronically, the articles are received electronically, they are reviewed electronically, and they are published electronically. So it's a totally paperless work. There's no print. The major costs of journals are printing and postage. That covers, and that is removed. And so you have, therefore, just posting a journal printed in Pakistan can cost, to USA, can cost about $15 or $10. It could be quite depending on the weight of the journal. And so you are actually removing the postage and printing costs, and then the speed with which the journal is then published, you have fast publication journals, which is a big attraction to scientists because they want their articles to be published rapidly. Secondly, the volume of the journal. It can be 200 pages or it can be 800 pages, doesn't matter if you have enough articles. So you can get, its thicker issues can be published without increasing the costs because of it's a totally paperless environment.
Can I just follow up just one quick?
Yeah.
I think that's very normal, but it still goes back to the same problems that we face. But that aside, I think we can. The other part I wanted you to elaborate, is the issue of motivation to do this kind of work, particularly for many of us from developing countries. The example of MIT courseware program means that somebody has to pay for the work that is done. MIT pays for the stuff. What you see as the motivating factors, or in fact incentives, for many of us, your country, African countries, like the video we saw in Ghana, for somebody who's a good teacher to actually do that, take the time, prepare that, and share it. Of course, it's great, but you need to have some basis to actually be able to produce that and be able to circulate it. I would imagine, professors at MIT are in, quote unquote, in a comfortable environment to actually do that they don't have to worry about, what we saw in the Ghanaian academic, or perhaps even in some academics in South Africa. But what you see as the incentives or motivating or basis to actually assist those that are willing. Academics, of course, are naturally giving. I've been an academic for many years, and we
Yes. Well, I think what one needs to understand is that the MIT OpenCourseware is not any special effort that the MIT professors are making. It is their normal courses that they are giving to their own lectures, and they have just placed these on the web so that anybody can access them. So there is no special effort required. And this was actually a decision that MIT took, that we would like to help whoever wants to benefit from the MIT courses. And my suggestion was that other universities across the world would come forward with similar programs where there is no special effort required, there is no special cost. It's their normal course materials which can then be made available. One can, however, make a small special effort and get a pool of people involved, and some international organizations can come in where one can actually televise lectures, record lectures, make video recordings. The cost will not be very much. One can pay a certain honorarium to the people involved, but an organized effort to have a series of lectures prepared in different disciplines by top authorities and making them available. And then the motivation will be to give and also to benefit the developing world, which many people in the West would be more than happy to do.
Yeah, we have please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. First of all, I appreciate the initiative taken by CERN to organize this conference. The objective of the conference, it was written that the statements, the remarks made by Kofi Annan, and the main objective was to address this challenge of poverty, illiteracy, and deprivation that are found in some parts of the world, and what science can do to eradicate those things. But somehow I find that the focus of the discussion has not been what it was meant to be. It is in general, we are talking in general about education, how ICT can be used, but what about the main objective of this holding of this conference? I come from a LDC, East Development Country, Nepal, and there it seems like there won't be a concrete proposal addressing the main objective of the conference. In such countries, of course, using what we are talking about here is using the most modern ICT to combat the issues of basic like health or literacy or poverty. So how can you use these expensive and modern means to combat to the basic things? There are many challenges, of course, like the infrastructure development and all that. Besides that, I think one point I would like to raise here is that of human resource. Yesterday, the minister from Mozambique was talking about in order to have 1,000 ICT persons, you have to train 20,000. But I think even if you train 20,000 and get 1,000 good people, these 1,000 people will not stay in those countries, because there is the center of gravity of the activity, ICT activity, is somewhere else in developed countries, and developed countries promote them. In fact, they encourage them to come and work there. So it's a very brain drain kind of phenomena. It's in a big way. In case of Nepal, it is happening. I don't know what is happening in other places. So that what we are left with there is those cream 1,000, they go away, and the remaining people who are kind of mediocre or middle level or even low level, and they know how to click, but they do not know how to use it properly to innovate and to adapt to the local situation and thereby make an improvement. So I think, can this conference make a concrete proposal so that especially in such countries you have a, say, 3 years or 5-year project, international project, say, where the international people expertise involved, and they focus their research in these countries and help retain those a few green people to be in respective countries, and they themselves visit there and then develop certain infrastructure so that it can be used to combat the challenges that this conference is meant to be. So can we put a concrete proposal like that as a recommendation? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We will take it in consideration. And we have the last two speakers. Is the lady from India, Bika. Mrs. Bika.
Good afternoon.
Then the panelist wants to give some reaction.
Good afternoon. Is the microphone audible?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm a theoretical physicist from India, and I'd like to touch very briefly, because I know we shouldn't exaggerate our own use of time, on many of the points which previous speakers have made. The first one is a response to the wonderful movie by Wesley Schramm, and in it I think there is something which hasn't been mentioned in this conference so far. I am myself from an underdeveloped country or a developing country, but I think we have a duty also to learn to accept and treat correctly what we get from the developed countries. That is what is needed to build the process of trust. Because also as an affiliate of the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, I have seen how wonderfully such organizations, A, combat the brain drain, and B, enable people to participate in this exchange, but how sometimes a few bad eggs, if you like, can cause people, just as in the film that Mr. showed, can give people the understanding, the wrong understanding that perhaps we haven't yet learned to accept. So I think self-criticism and humility on the part of the developing countries should also be a point that is recognized by us, and of course it is a process of equal exchange, but we should learn how to accept. The second point I would like to make is a point made by Mohammed Hassan, where he said that developing countries can also be developed in the field of science. And I take the example again of China, India, Brazil. And I know when I go to ICTP, I'm told that, oh, you are treated as developed countries. We should be doing more, and we are doing quite a lot to interact in a South-South way. My own institute is one where we have a regular influence influx of people from Bangladesh and Nepal. So no, we don't always have to look to the West. We already have this going. So this is something that I think those of us who are more developed in science should be doing more of. And what I can say is that we do it already. And this again is something that was sponsored initially, this process of exchange, by the ICTP, which has been doing wonderful work. The second point, the third point I want to make is in response to Professor Rahman's wonderful talk, where I'm extremely impressed by the connectivity in such a short time which has gone through Pakistan. But I would make the point, and I think we would all agree on this, it's not, you know, how much fiber optic cables connect this. And I'm saying this in a very general sense. In India too, we have fiber optic connectivity. But who are the individuals being connected? And here I would actually say that some of India's best IT success stories have been from individuals who have learned in really rather extreme conditions of poverty, learned and made their way, and then been responsible for individual companies. So my message again is to us in developing countries that, you know, even if we haven't got the cables in place, there are things we can do and there are things we are doing. And this is the reason why, for example, IT jobs are now being outsourced to India, which is a way of combating the brain drain, and also a way in which we don't have to wait for some big grant to get things connected. Lastly, a somewhat more academic point in response to the very nice talk by Professor Eisenstein, which is, as a practicing physicist, as somebody who actually is editor of an e-journal, I'm extremely concerned about some of the things I've heard in this conference. And the main point I have to make is this. It's wonderful to have the sharing of complete information, but who is going to control two things? One, who is going to say that this is bad data and that is good data? For that you need peer review, for that you need something, and that is easier to do you know, in the written format. And secondly and lastly, what does one really do about issues like plagiarism? So although I'm very much in favor of e-journals, I think we have to have these structures in place. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I apologize. We have so good debate discussing, but because the time limited, we can take only the last speaker here, and he did a lot of job for organizing these meetings. You also response to your discussing.
Well, sorry, I don't want to take more than just a couple of minutes. I think as far as the output from this RSIS meeting, in fact, our Director General in his opening remarks listed a few things that seem to us to be priority items, such as the free availability of fundamental scientific information, software tools, networking infrastructure, and training people and equipment. And I think actually already we've been successful in getting some of those elements reflected in the declaration of principles and the action plan for WSIS. And I think the purpose of this meeting is to refine this message and to improve it somewhat. And I expect that the remarks by the Director General at the end, and a lot of the comments that have been made in this meeting will be taken into account. Just perhaps a last couple of comments. You know, CERN obviously is a high-end, high-tech research laboratory. Lives in a somewhat different world from what we saw, for example, in Wesley Schramm's video. But I think there are some resources that we have available. For example, Professor Rahman was asking for lecture courses to be made available. All the lectures given at CERN are available in principle. You were talking, Ms. Gracie, about high school teachers and the need to network them. In fact, we have established a network of high school teachers. We've had high school teachers from less developed countries, such as, for example, South Africa. And we'd be very pleased to get nominations for other individuals that we could couple into this network. And I think also that an organization like CERN has a key role to play in this problem of quality control that has come up on several occasions, specifically in remarks by Dr. Mehta. And I think that perhaps we at CERN should think more carefully about how we can help this problem.
I think the decision is closed. But if you have some comments or suggestions, you still can use the lunchtime contact to our report. You will make a presentation the afternoon in all your
because I'm originally from Morocco, where I have worked for 60 years. Now I just spent 15 years in Bordeaux, and I am leading a research group in Signal and Image. I want to congratulate you for your talk. It's one of the most realistic. I mean, the movie. It was the most realistic and described truly the heart of the problem of 99% of the country. I probably will be in the US. I will give you my.
Why don't we walk outside? It's a little quieter out
Sorry?
there. So. Do you mind walking outside? I want to.
We can stay. Can I talk with?
Oh yeah, no. I want you to talk to him.
Yeah, that's okay. I will do that. So I'm very sensitive to this because I still want to have my career in the very project at the high level, in the European country.
Yeah.
And so what this picture, you describe are very, very realistic, and as I told you, it's probably the situation is 99%. If you exclude, China, India, and Brazil, and the rest, really the sub-Saharan country, and you can also include part of the North African countries. So that's so what I want to tell you, I will probably give a seminar. In Georgia Tech, at the mid of February. I'm in the area of image and signal processing, and probably I will be very glad to interact. I'll give you my card.
Okay.
This is the name, and I am leading. It's a lab with the company and with the French National Foundation. It's involved.
I'll just send you the DVD.
Yes, I will appreciate to have it. Yeah, I would appreciate. So on the other hand, my wife is working on sustainable development for them, and she's the leading UNESCO chair, and she has been a lot of work. And so I will give you. I can have your card or something. I will dispatch that, and I can. For the future, you can provide any kind of assistance or expertise, and I will be very glad to do you regarding my experience in the north and in the south.
You've had a lot of experience, I can tell.
I'm on the right to some notes for the TWAS, the member of the TWAS.
Okay.
Yes, I'm the fellow of the TWAS.
Well, we're really
very happy about that.
This Tunis 2005 meeting already.
Okay,
but also we really want to get a lot more scientists there from Africa. And
okay. So I have some experience in India. So we will stay in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Have a nice day.
I was wondering if I could have your card, because I want to make a grouped order for your DVD. I'm from Italian-speaking Switzerland. Rather than having people asking you separately, I think as it may be cheaper for mailing. If I think 2 or 3 people in Italian-speaking Switzerland.
How many do you need? How many DVDs do you need?
Well, that would be I wanted to speak to the people, you see, or rather email them before, and then we email you and we can ask you. So rather than sending separate.
Okay, that would be.
It was a great idea.
Okay.
I really like it.
Yeah, I think one thing I should have probably said, but I hate saying it in public, is we actually have more money in this project than we can spend, because we really made a commitment that if we get public money for this project, we shouldn't treat it loosely and just allow it to be stolen or otherwise, So that's why it's very difficult to finally give away the money, even though you're just making gifts, really, and it's very strange to me that I have this money, I can't give it away.
But have you heard about this UNESCO Switzerland project, which is called rather pompously Content Professionals Tackle the Digital Divide?
I have heard of it. I'm not that familiar with it, but I heard of it.
They had a first seminar in Lugano in March. And they were speaking about less developed countries so much, and I got angry because it was offensive, considering that the Swiss organizers can't use email. And so anyway, they are doing this. They will be at ICT 4D.
Okay.
And
I saw it on the program.
And they also have a conference. I can't remember if on the 10th or the 11th at 4 o'clock. And I think they might be made of something like your DVD.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy to do that. I'll be going up to the ICT4D tomorrow morning, and but it's so big, you know, it's hard to.
Yeah, well, that's.
Probably get
I think
lost.
that I'm not sure this is a priority, this UNESCO Switzerland thing, but one of the priorities certainly is the African Media Village, where they're going to remake in a container 2 cylinders. And ABC, I think is the name of the organization, they're going to have a container with a cyber cafe in it, including power cards.
Okay.
Oh, is this the project?
Yeah.
Kiosk?
What a wonderful movie, what a fabulous movie, because I haven't got a card, so I will send you my virtual card.
Okay, that's
but
fine.
I
I'd
thought
be
that was
happy to
fabulous,
send you
because
a
I
copy.
actually, well, I haven't got a DVD player.
Okay.
So.
It's a computer. If you have a computer.
I have a computer,
Yeah, it'll play on a computer.
I'm doing, but I just thought that that was so important to say that we also need to know how to take, and I think
Well,
that's
I
the point.
wasn't really saying that
No, you weren't, but
that
the film was. You need conditions. You need conditions for people to be able to take things in the right way. You need that. You need a flat playing field in real terms. And the fact that for some people it can transform lives, and then there can be this mistrust which builds up, and then there can be conditions which make that mistrust happen. So I think it's a very complex issue, and you showed it beautifully. I thought, wow, I was very, very, very.
She probably says it better than I do.
She does. We're gonna have to hire you now for for media junkets.
Well, that.
What's your name? Full name?
Anita Mehta. I haven't got a card.
That's okay. It's okay. But I got your question on film too. So great. Thank you very much for your comments.
No,
It was great.
I'm half a media person in the sense that I'm a journalist, a music journalist, and a physicist. So
it's a good combination.
And I write.
Good. Good.
But no, I thought, after all these things, when the picture does the talking, or when the movie does the talking, and all these, there's a happy, and there's a happy sad, and there's a sad, and you see exactly why the sad happens. Sorry, I'm not used to.
No, it's okay. Well, no, it's okay. Well, we were debating putting voiceover, and we said, you know what? They're saying it better than we are.
Yeah.
So let